Every day the fierce sun over the village of Gumfaliel had a way of bullying its way into every rondavelle, as if it had an urgent message for the ancestors. It would sneak past the baobab trees, bounce off the red earth, and land squarely on Thabiso's eyelids just as he was dreaming of a better life. But on this particular morning, he didn't even flinch. He just lay there, stiff as a dried mopane worm, his back turned to the other side of the grass mat. On the other side, Puling was also wide awake, her eyes fixed on a crack in the mud wall, pretending it was the most interesting thing she had ever seen. She had been listening to his breathing since the first rooster crowed, trying to guess what he was thinking. For 5 full days, a silence as heavy as a rain cloud had settled between them. Not a single word. Not even a grunt. This was a new record in their 7 years of marriage, a marriage that was usually as loud and lively as the village market. Even Gogo, the old woman next door whose ears missed nothing, had stopped hearing their usual morning arguments. They still shared the same sleeping mat, of course, but if you were a lizard on the ceiling looking down, you would think a great river had cut a path between them, with a silent warning, do not dare to cross. It all started over something as small as a chicken's egg, as most great famines do. Puling had accused Thabiso of selling her prize-winning hen, the one with the speckled feathers that laid the biggest eggs in the whole village. Thabiso, his pride wounded, swore on his grandfather's grave that he would never do such a thing, and that she was seeing shadows where there were none. Well, she said she saw him talking to the butcher from the next village, his eyes shining with the greed of a man about to make a secret sale. He retorted that he was only asking for directions, and that she was becoming as suspicious as a chameleon in a field of chameleons. She told him if he wanted money so badly, he should go and find a proper job instead of selling off their future, one chicken at a time. He then fired back that he did indeed need a lecture from a woman whose only job was to count eggs and gossip with the other village women. And that was the final stone that broke the calabash. Boom. The great silence descended. Now, Thabiso was a man whose stubbornness was legendary. People said that if Thabiso argued with the mountain would eventually get tired and move. Puling, on the other hand, was just as unyielding. Her spirit was like the deep roots of the marula tree. You could pull and pull, but it would never budge. So, they both dug in their heels, each waiting for the other to surrender. Thabiso would eat his pap with a scowl, deliberately making loud chewing noises to annoy her. Puling would hum a cheerful tune while washing the dishes, pointedly ignoring his existence. It was a war fought with silence, a battle of wills in the heart of their small home. The days crawled by. The first day was tense. The second was unbearable. By the third day, the air in the rondavelle was so thick with unspoken words you could almost taste them. Thabiso missed her laughter, the way it sounded like little bells ringing. Puling missed the silly stories he would tell her about his day, even the ones he made up. But pride is a heavy blanket, and neither of them wanted to be the first to throw it off. The neighbors started whispering. "Have you seen Thabiso and Puling?" they would say. They walk past each other like strangers who owe each other money. On the morning of the 6th day, something shifted. Puling woke up feeling a strange knot in her stomach. It wasn't the usual anger or frustration. It was fear. She looked over at Thabiso's side of the mat, and it was empty. The sun had not yet climbed high enough to fill the room, but his absence was a gaping hole. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at her heart. She jumped up, her bare feet cold on the earthen floor. She looked outside. His worn-out boots were gone. His favorite walking stick was not leaning against the wall where he always left it. She ran to Gogo's hut next door, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Gogo, have you seen Thabiso?" she asked, her voice trembling. The old woman looked at her with knowing eyes, her face a roadmap of wrinkles and wisdom. "Child," Gogo said slowly, "a man's pride can make him walk until his feet bleed, and a woman's silence can push him away until he is lost. Go and find your husband." Puling didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her shawl and ran, her fear giving her legs the speed of a startled impala. She didn't know where she was going, but she had to find him. She asked everyone she met. The women fetching water from the river. The men heading to the fields. No one had seen him. She ran towards the old path that led to the kopje, the small hill that overlooked the entire village. It was a place they used to go when they were young, a place where they had shared their first secrets. As she got closer, she saw a figure sitting on the big flat rock at the top. It was him. Thabiso was just sitting there, his shoulders slumped, staring out at the vast landscape as if searching for an answer in the wind. He looked smaller, somehow. The legendary stubbornness seemed to have drained right out of him. Puling slowed her pace, her breath catching in her throat. She walked up to him quietly and sat down, not too close, but not too far either. For a long time, they just sat there, the silence between them different now. It wasn't angry anymore. It was fragile, like a spider's web after the rain. Finally, Thabiso spoke, his voice hoarse. "The butcher, he told me about a job. A construction job in the city." He didn't look at her. "I was going to surprise you. With the money. To fix the roof before the rains come." Puling felt a tear slide down her cheek, hot and shameful. All this time, she had been nursing her anger, convinced of his betrayal. She looked at his hands, calloused and strong, and imagined them working to build a better life for them. The silence had been a poison, and she had been drinking it willingly. She reached out and placed her hand on his arm. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental. "My hen," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "She came back this morning. Gogo said she was probably just nesting somewhere in the bushes." Thabiso finally turned to look at her, and in his eyes, she saw the same relief and regret that she felt in her own heart. He let out a long breath, a sound that carried 5 days of tension with it. A small, weak smile touched his lips. "So, my wife," he said, his voice returning to its usual teasing tone, "you thought I would sell our future for a few coins." Puling couldn't help but let out a small laugh, a sound that was half a sob. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and he put his arm around her, pulling her close. From the top of the kopje, they watched the sun begin its slow descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The silence was gone, replaced by the comfortable quiet of two people who had found their way back to each other. They knew there would be other arguments, other disagreements. They were Thabiso and Puling, after all. But they also knew that no matter how stubborn they were, some things were more important than pride. Down in the village, as evening fell, Gogo sat outside her hut and smiled. She heard the sound of laughter drifting down from a hill, a sound as sweet and welcome as the first rains of the season. The Great War was over. The silence had been broken. Subscribe to the channel, like and share for more videos.